Good. All right. What is it that we want to discuss in a little bit more depth today? It's about nervous system health. Relax the body, relax the mind. All right. So I just had a call with a friend and we were talking about feelings of disempowerment. And I think this is it's been a while since I made one of these videos, hey, but it's nice to be able to clarify some of this stuff. And I think I've been learning a lot about the nervous system lately and the nervous system health and ways to really ground and integrate through feelings of disempowerment. And I think for a lot of us now, this is a very real thing that's going on, especially with the COVID and the way that the world is going. It feels there's this general sense of overwhelm, like we're losing control. And how do I get back some of that control? And this can be on a macro level with things like the things that are happening in the state of the world. It can also be on a micro level, particularly when you're in conversation with somebody and you feel that sense of activation, I'm triggered, I don't know what to do, but I just feel disconnected and overwhelmed emotionally, and this feeling of vulnerability and a disempowerment. And one of the things that we discussed in the call was how we seem to have designed this culture around emotional disconnect, and particularly for people in highly stressful situations, it's very, very easy to distract and disconnect from some uncomfortable or particularly vulnerable feeling that might be occurring within them. But as you do that, what you actually do is you disconnect from your power, because you're disconnecting from the thing that's alive in you. And as you disconnect from the thing that's alive in you, you're disconnecting from life. And if you disconnect from life, you become this kind of separate thing that is not connected to all of the power that life could give you, all of the power that kind of being connected to your emotions as a guidance system can actually give you. And so it's really valuable to be able to build enough capacity in your nervous system to have a good relationship with emotions. And so the 6 basic emotions, there is anger, fear, shock, disgust, sadness, and finally joy and happiness. This is based on I can't remember whose model it was, but it's a kind of a standard model. And these 6 basic emotions, you really want to be able to build capacity in your nervous system to have a good relationship with those so that you can stay connected to them. As you stay connected to them, they can give you the guidance on how to act. So it's really like being connected to your own guidance system. But if you are disconnected from some of those emotions, or you're somebody who's maybe shut down in the area of anger, which is typical for, say, a people-pleasing pattern. It's I can't get angry because it's too scary. And when you feel anger, at first reconnecting with a sense of anger is kind of a vulnerable feeling, because it's very, very intense. And so it's really about reconditioning the mind to turn towards the thing that feels really intense, or the feeling, the emotion. And you want to do it gradually as well. This is why working with a somatic therapist or somebody who is schooled in different types of body-based psychology is really, really useful, because they can just gradually break that feeling down. And I really started to see it lately as you are, it's like you're going to the gym to condition your body. You don't want to lift 3,000 pounds on the first day, if you could do such a thing anyway, but you gradually want to build up to it. So it's the same when you are kind of reconnecting and reestablishing and building capacity within your nervous system. You want to start small, and you just want to the process for it is called titration, and you just gradually take a bit on, digest, take a bit on, digest. And then it's really important to have those kind of rest periods in between, because that's when your brain starts to solidify these neural networks that say it's safe to feel this. It's safe to feel this kind of vulnerability. It's safe to feel this anger. It's safe to feel this disgust. These are all really important emotions to remain connected to, because then if you can stay in there and feel properly integrate those, then you are constantly connected to your power, which essentially manifests as I'm not controlled by this feeling. my behavior. If I there's a feeling that I don't want to feel and it comes to me and I start to deny it and reject it, either I'm going to repress it and push it down, which takes a lot of energy. So that saps my energy, drains my energy. Often people feel like that. Or I'm going to build a behavior around avoiding it. And if I'm building a behavior around avoiding it, then that kind of pulls my strings. Every time that thing shows up, it's like, okay, activate the behavior. And so really what this is about building capacity so you can feel the feeling without going into reactivity and still retain enough consciousness to have that pause, like that space between. It's like, here's the stimulus. Okay, feel the feeling. I can feel the feeling. That's okay. And now I can choose a response. I'm not in that reactive place. And so one of the things you want to do is work on triggering and activating that specific feeling while at the same time activating your parasympathetic nervous response. So you're just steadily retraining the brain and like building this network that signifies it's safe to feel this feeling. It's safe to be here. It's safe to have this experience. And so we're going to look at a few ways to do that now. So some of the first things you want to pay attention to when you're caught in one of these situations and you're starting to feel disconnected from, you can notice you're starting to dissociate, feeling disconnected from your power, feeling vulnerable. Again, it's not the vulnerability that is the problem. It's the disconnection from it that is the problem, because that's where you start to check out. And if you're not in your body, you're not connected to your emotions, you're really just going up into your mind to make a story about what's going on. And if you're making a story about what's going on, it could be anything. Usually the mind makes a story to justify the reaction, and it does that to kind of keep you safe, but the story is not the reality. Like, it's a really important distinction to make. The reality is the experience of the feeling as it's happening. And if you can remain connected to reality, then you can sense out and feel what is the way to act, or like the appropriate response that is going to deliver you through the pattern, like to maybe transcend the pattern or to move beyond the pattern in a way that feels good for you. So some of the first things to recognize when you get caught in one of these situations is like, immediately, if you can, this is a very simple thing, is to just start to notice what's at the side of your vision. So start to notice what's in your periphery. So you notice what's at this side, you notice what's at this side, and you just start to pay attention to that. And one of the reasons for this is from Andrew Huberman's work. He's a fantastic neuroscientist. I really learned a lot from him lately. It was some really, really good material. He talks about how when you are in fight and flight mode and your nervous system is kind of primed and ready to go, it dilates your pupils and you focus in on something that you perceive to be a threat. And so when you are focused on that thing, you're in kind of like threat mode, which sends a message to the nervous system like danger, 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 danger. And then you start to get the adrenaline response, which is where all of the blood disappears from, or like fight and flight response. All of the blood moves from your brain and your vital organs into your limbs to either fight or to run away. And so what you want to do then is send the message that you're actually safe. And when you're like looking at a panorama, when you're kind of taking in the wider perspective of vision, that triggers the parasympathetic response. It's like, oh, I'm safe. I'm not focused in on one specific threat. It's like I'm able to see all things at the same time. And you can actually activate that just by being aware of what's at the periphery. So instead of being focused, you're being aware of what's the periphery. If you can get that step, you could do any of these in any order, but that's a nice thing it's such a simple thing to do, and it's not obvious as well. It's not like you're suddenly, okay, I'm going to start breathing in a specific way and calm me down in the middle of an argument per se. But that's a nice subtle one that you can do that can really help you just notice enough. It's like, okay, what's at the side of my eyes? Okay, now I'm in the periphery. And I think this also has to do with a kind of a bilateral stimulations. If you work with energy psychology techniques such as EMDR. It's like you're moving your eyes side to side. This is also bilaterally stimulating both sides of the brain. Some people do it like this as well, where you're tapping on side to side like this. And you can also do it auditorily as well. But the main point is to like stimulate both sides of the brain so they start to open up channels of communication and cooperate together. So anyway, if you can notice what's at the periphery, then you start to pay attention to your breath. And there's three things that I talk to people about when you're paying attention to your breath in a situation where you want to activate the parasympathetic relaxation response. And the first one is breathing through your nose. So you want to make sure that you're breathing through your nose. The reason you do this is because nasal breathing produces nitric oxide, which creates vasodilation, which is where things start to open up and everything can flow and move between the cells. So vasodilation is really good for that. Nasal breathing is one way to activate the vasodilation response. Next, you want to be breathing into your belly, because your belly is, or your gut, your diaphragm is connected to the vagus nerve, which is another way of stimulating the amygdala, the parasympathetic response. Is like belly breathing. Sends a message up the vagus nerve. It's like, it's safe, I can relax, okay. And the third thing is to extend your exhale. If you start to extend your exhale, what happens with that is that your heart rate starts to slow down. So any quickening in pace that you might have experienced while you were in the sympathetic fight and flight response then becomes slower down. It then starts to slow down with that parasympathetic activation. So 3 things, very important. Nasal breathing, start with the nose, belly, and then extend the exhale. And with those 3 things, then you can start to actually soften in and connect with the feeling. So this is like the main crux of it. It's like, well, I want to do all of these things to activate my parasympathetic response, like the periphery, nasal breathing, belly breathing, extending the exhale, slowing down the heart rate. All of these are good to activate the parasympathetic response. But why do I even want to activate the parasympathetic response? It's basically so I can soften to connect with the feeling. So then I want to turn directly towards it and say, well, that feeling of vulnerability is where I want to go. I want to go directly there, because that is the connection to what's alive in me. And that is the connection to life, which is the connection to power. So it's like, well, go there instead. It doesn't empower me to repress my emotions. It makes me ill in the long term. It disconnects me from reality. It makes my mind easily hijackable by any set of convincing stories or information. I'm not connected to the felt sense of what is true, which is really important that we all stay connected to that, because there's a you call it, it's like there's a kind of a common felt sense, like we know intuitively things that we don't think that we know through that felt sense, but it's like navigating a little bit blind. So it's really important to cultivate the awareness and the good relationship with that felt sense. And so the ways that you really want to do it is activate the parasympathetic nervous system and then go towards the feeling to connect directly and ground directly in that feeling and have the experience of it, and just soften the body, loosen the body, slow everything down, relax the body, and just go directly there. It's easier said than done, but it's something that takes practice over time. So practice a little bit, then rest, then practice a little bit, and then rest. That's how you build this. That's how you activate this plasticity and build new brain circuits that can help you bring back that sense of personal sovereignty. It's like you're not in your mind making stories about what's happening. You're actually in what's happening right now, sitting in it, connected to the power of it, integrating the power of it. And this is really we're in such a time now where we're so mentally focused, and these little devices like the one that you're watching this on probably are so good at manipulating and hijacking the mind. And so if you're disconnected from your body, you're disconnected from, reality and life and power. And so if you're feeling that sense of powerlessness and helplessness, it's like you're not going to get it from here. This can help you to come down to here to feel it in the body, but this is really where it all is. If you want to know more about this, there is a lot of breathwork exercises I have started to put on YouTube here. I have them on Mixcloud. I have them on my site as well. A lot of these breathwork exercises are focused around the music, which activates stimulates certain emotional responses, and then breathwork, which corresponds to allow you to soften and energize and connect with what's going on. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're interested in more of the work, you can go to perceptionarchitecture.com or just scroll some of these videos. Spend more time on social media, if you will, or go over to Mixcloud and close your eyes and put on some tunes and get some breath work done. That's always nice. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.